Today, the world watches a story that reshaped the meaning of law enforcement in America. It began as a drug investigation and ended as a declaration of war. The mission had a name, Operation Clean America, and it would become the largest synchronized federal strike against organized crime in a generation. For 18 months, agents from the Drug Enforcement Administration, ICE, and the FBI worked in silence, tracing a network of warehouses, trucks, and encrypted messages that all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. The Sinaloa Cartel had established a command cell deep inside the United States. They were not just trafficking across borders anymore. They were running an empire from within. The story began in the desert near the American border. 9 American citizens, 3 mothers and 6 children, were ambushed in broad daylight. Their vehicles were riddled with bullets and set on fire. At first, it looked like a tragic case of mistaken identity, cartel gunmen attacking what they thought were rival traffickers. But to federal agents, it meant something far more sinister. The attack was not random. It was a warning, a direct challenge to U.S. sovereignty. A message written in blood. That moment changed everything. What began as a criminal case turned into a counteroffensive. Federal task forces joined together, forming one of the largest intelligence coalitions in modern history. Wiretaps, surveillance drones, and satellite imagery created a new kind of battlefield, one that stretched from the deserts of Arizona to the streets of Seattle. Inside the command centers, the dots on the maps began to connect. Shipping records did not match. Ledgers were written in code. Money moved through cryptocurrency wallets linked to fake import-export businesses. The deeper investigators dug, the clearer the picture became. A new Sinaloa command cell had been built inside America itself. The 2 men at the top of the network operated under code names Vodka 42 and Kaido 31. Born in Sinaloa, trained by years in cartel warfare, they were more than traffickers. Vodka was the enforcer, brutal and disciplined. Kaido was the strategist, a financial ghost fluent in crypto laundering, digital manipulation, and shell corporations. Together, they had created an industrial system of narcotics distribution so advanced that it blurred the line between organized crime and multinational business. They used trucking companies to transport products disguised as legitimate goods. They used suburban homes as stash houses, blending into quiet neighborhoods. And they used messaging apps to conduct deals that once happened in dark alleys. Buyers placed orders with a text. Payments were made in cryptocurrency. Deliveries arrived like online purchases, track-timed and deadly. When the first major shipment was intercepted in Washington state, the scale of the threat became undeniable. Agents seized more than 4,000 pounds of methamphetamine and 260 pounds of fentanyl, enough to wipe out the population of Seattle several times over. For the federal teams, it was no longer just narcotics. It was chemical warfare disguised as commerce. The investigation had stretched long enough. The order was given to strike. At 4 in the morning, under a low gray sky, the country lit up on the operations map. Red points marked every target across 8 states: Seattle, Tacoma, San Diego, Dallas, Phoenix, Portland, Sacramento, Denver. Every point meant a command site, a stash, or a courier hub. At exactly 0400 hours, a single word echoed through the comms channel: execute. The operation moved like a machine. Helicopters thundered over the Puget Sound. Drones scanned warehouse rooftops. Armored trucks rolled through dark streets in silence. Teams of federal agents stormed homes, storage units, and distribution centers simultaneously. Doors splintered, flashbangs ignited, and shouting filled the air. Seattle, usually calm under rain, erupted into chaos. By dawn, the raids had become a full-scale offensive. Federal teams seized assault rifles, grenades, and improvised explosives. Stacks of cash wrapped in plastic. Drums of precursor chemicals marked with false labels. The seizures read like a catalog of destruction. Every item, another piece of a vast network designed to feed addiction and death across the nation. The operation lasted 48 hours. By the end, 80 suspects were in custody, including cartel enforcers and logistics brokers working from the port of Seattle. The 2 brothers at the top were captured alive off the California coast, cornered aboard a luxury yacht as they tried to escape toward open water. No shots fired, no escape. The federal agents had done the impossible. For a brief moment, America believed it had won. But victory came with a price. As the news spread, the footage dominated every broadcast. Masked agents, helicopters, seized narcotics piled high under floodlights. The images sparked both pride and outrage. Some saw a nation defending itself. Others saw federal overreach. Seattle's mayor addressed the city, declaring that local authorities would not allow their streets to become a battlefield of federal power. Within days, protests erupted downtown. On one side, demonstrators held signs reading "Sanctuary for All." On the other, parents of overdose victims carried photos of their children and shouted "Justice for the dead." The city became a mirror of the nation itself, divided between those demanding compassion and those demanding retribution. But while the streets argued, the agents who fought the 48-hour war stayed silent. They returned underground, following new digital traces, because something about the operation did not add up. The flow of money had not stopped. The servers they had seized were still active. And then they saw it, a pattern of signals connecting to cloud accounts registered to fake tech startups. The traffic was not coming from Mexico. It was coming from inside the United States. At a cyber forensics facility outside Quantico, analysts examined 40 terabytes of seized data. They discovered an embedded phrase hidden deep within the metadata red vein protocol. It was a self-replicating digital framework, an automated system designed to rebuild the cartel's logistics after every bust. Every server destroyed would trigger new ones to appear. Every wallet frozen would open 2 more. The Sinaloa network had evolved into code. The machine was learning. Within days, new wallets opened in Hong Kong. Funds flowed to shell companies in Los Angeles and shipping yards in Puerto Rico. The system was regenerating faster than agents could shut it down. The conclusion was clear. The war had moved online. Federal analysts traced the source of the signal to an offshore relay north of Mazatlan. The encryption matched the private keys of the captured brothers. Someone with inside access was activating the network. And one name kept appearing in the encrypted chatter: Orion. No one knew if it was a code name, a program, or a living person. But the device signature had pinged from U.S. soil. That revelation triggered a response unlike anything before. At 5 in the morning, the Cyber Operations Division at Fort Meade went to full alert. Screens flickered to life across the command center. DEA agents joined military cyber specialists and Homeland Security technicians in a single unified strike group. Their mission: shut down Red Vein, their Operation Iron Signal. This was a new kind of warfare. No bullets, no smoke, only code. The battlefield was a web of servers stretching from Houston to South America. Every keystroke was a trigger pull, every firewall breach an explosion of data. Packets collided at the speed of light as both sides fought for digital dominance. The cartel's system counterattacked, flooding the network with false nodes and mirror servers. It was an electronic firefight. Thousands of simultaneous hits, redirects, and detonations in cyberspace. Then, at 14 minutes past 5, the first mirror servers collapsed. The Red Vein network sensed intrusion and launched its failsafe: self-destruction. Drives melted, servers overloaded. Entire cloud farms went dark. In 14 minutes, billions in criminal infrastructure vanished into static. Silence returned to the war room. They had neutralized the digital heart of the cartel. But within the packet trace, a single anomaly glowed, a ghost transmission from South America labeled Project Serif. Its final message read, "The war learns." The analysts looked at one another. They knew what it meant. The system had evolved again. The next conflict would not look like the last. By dawn, the smoke had cleared over Seattle. The warehouses stood silent, their walls blackened from breaching charges. Agents watched the sun rise over the harbor, exhausted but resolute. They had dismantled the largest cartel infrastructure ever found on U.S. soil. 7 million lethal doses prevented. Hundreds of lives saved before breakfast. It should have felt like victory, but all they could feel was the weight of what still remained. Because the war was not over. The overdoses had not stopped. In King County alone, emergency calls still poured in, one every few minutes. Fentanyl continued to flow, not from the ports, but from the internet, from coded supply chains that no one could fully trace. The brothers were in custody, but their system had become self-sustaining. The cartel had turned into an algorithm. Weeks later, federal prosecutors filed 37 indictments describing what they called an industrialized death system. The documents read like corporate filings: trucks, accountants, investors, shipping schedules. Every line exposed a truth most Americans did not want to believe: that the fentanyl war was not chaos. It was business, profitable, precise, and relentless. Inside Justice Headquarters, the operations team gathered one last time. Maps still glowed on the walls, red lines crossing the country like veins. Even with the cartel's leaders gone, new accounts were activating, new routes forming. They knew the enemy had no face anymore. It lived in servers, in data, in silence.